because it bounces, because sound goes straight up.
Yep.
And what you could do is put some foam at the top. Yeah. Or even have it hanging above us.
Yeah, we're doing in between, and then we're gonna probably hang a couple of the.
Yeah, exactly. Catch the sound. Be perfect, because the sound is gonna go straight up. So when we speak out, it hits the mic.
Yeah, exactly what it does.
I got you.
All right, we are live.
Awesome. And Max, if you could hit the AC, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And is the audio all good?
Yeah, it's all
sweet.
Set.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. What's that?
Can you hear yourself in headphones?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
yeah, it sounds good. Divine, how's your audio?
Good.
Good.
Sound great.
Dude, thanks for taking the time.
Yo, absolutely, my brother. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah,
you know?
this is a long time coming.
Long time coming. Too long.
But the whiskeys bring up memories of first meeting.
Cognac.
Yeah, or cognac. sorry. I'm not a pro at that.
Nah, no doubt.
But yeah, so we got connected through Ellen first.
Yeah, Ellen introduced us.
Yeah, she basically sent me a link and was like, you should keep your eye out for this guy. He's awesome. And I reached out and we published something of yours. And then we connected in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. Ellen's always good at like connecting people, you know?
She's awesome at that.
Yeah.
So first meeting, we're talking, and I think it only took like 2 to 3 sentences where we started clicking, started vibing a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you were the one that was like, wait a minute, when are you born? And I'm not into, astrology and signs or anything like that, but I was like, yeah, there's nothing there. There was.
No, what's crazy about it was that your energy, you know what I'm saying? It was real familiar. Just the way you was talking, the way you was expressing yourself, I really connected with it. So that being said, that's what made me say, what's your sign? I said, what's your sign first? And then he was like, yo, Gemini. I'm like, oh, I'm a Gemini too. When were you born? And then we had the same birthday, so that bugged me out.
Yeah, May 23rd. And I remember you pull out your license right away. I did the same, and that's crazy. I love synchronistic events like that where you just get connected, you don't expect it, but then you're in the moment and you're vibing with somebody. The energy, like you mentioned, is similar. That's exciting because that's for me, like that's a sign that there's something there.
We're having a great conversation. Conversation was great, so
And what was so cool when you started to come out to Silicon Valley more was getting to spend some time together and hearing about what you're up to, what you're building, how you're thinking about things. Because I wasn't that familiar with your story till we got to hang out for an extended period of time, that dinner that Ellen brought down.
Right.
And your story is incredible. So I wanted to bring you back and
thank you.
Hopefully walk through everything from the earliest day, not everything.
I got you.
But some of the highlights and everything, because I can't imagine going through some of the things that you've been through.
Yeah.
And our listeners, our audience, they're always hungry for accelerated learning ideas and ways to save themselves time, maybe save themselves some heartache. And in my mind, you've blazed so many different trails. I'd love to start at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Man. So, the premise of my life, man, if I put it into a tagline, would be from crack to rap to tech. As you know, I often use that to kind of set the stage for the conversations I have with individuals. So when we look at the crack aspect of it, I was born and raised in my early age and young teens in Newport, Rhode Island. It's known as America's first resort. Small city by the sea, in the smallest state in the Union, which is Rhode Island. So yeah, I was initially raised middle class family. I knew who my father was. Father wasn't in the home though, so it was really my mom's taking care of me and my younger brother. Grew up there. Unfortunately, my mother went through some trials and tribulations with my father. Had emotional mental breakdown. You know what I'm saying? And that caused her to shift her whole direction in life, and she ended up like just packing up and moving away. She chose to go down to Louisiana, right? Leesville, Louisiana.
And how old were you at the time where she decided?
I think it was crazy because I actually came home. I was going to Catholic school at the time. Came home. This is how I recall it, right? It's been a long time. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. Came home from Catholic school. Came into the crib and she's like having a house sale, like everything in the house must go type sale. And that's why I vaguely remember that being done. And then and I went through a spiritual experience actually before that even happened. So when one evening, sun's about to set, I'm riding my bike, and I heard this voice in my head. That's the only way I could really describe it. That said everything's gonna be all right. And I actually looked up into the sky, And it was like that voice I just heard that voice. I looked right up. I never understood what it was until later on I was incarcerated and started digging deep into spirituality. Then I actually recalled that event. So it was crazy. So that happened to me. And like I said, my mother picked up and went away, and I was about 10 years old when that happened.
When you had that experience of riding on the bike, was it like jarring for you? Did it stick with you for a long time? Did it stick with you and then you kind of forgot about it, and then later when you were incarcerated it just came back to you? What was that experience like? Because I'm always, not the same experience, but I've had similar experiences.
Right.
And I always want to dig into like, what was it like for you type thing?
Right. I mean, it was almost like this instantaneous thing, and I looked up into the sky, and that was it. Like I didn't question it. It's just as if I heard this voice in my head saying this, right? Almost like if you speak things without moving your mouth, but you're reciting them in your mind,
sure.
You can hear them. Isn't that crazy? You can actually hear what you're saying without even moving your mouth.
Right.
Any sound coming out. So it was just like that. And like I said, it happened instantaneously. Didn't think nothing of it. But years later, when I would really dig deeper into spirituality, it came back to me. I recalled it.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about it, like my mother had always pushed us in the church, kind of Catholic school. I was going to Catholic school and all that, Bible study when I was younger, and that was due to her being raised by nuns. She was a ward of the state, and she was raised in a home, and it was nuns that raised her. So she was brought up real strict, and having good morals and things of that nature. So I always had that like that vague foundation
right.
of religion.
Yeah.
But I really didn't attract to religion much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same here. Like I could appreciate some things about it, but there was plenty of things where I was like, why is it like that? That doesn't seem to make that much sense. Do you know why? And people didn't like questions that much.
Right. Nah,
which
not
kind of
at
threw
all.
me off.
Yeah. Religion, sports, and politics.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta be easy with those things. But
So what was school like? What were those early days like for you? How did you deal with or react? How were you thinking about authority and learning at that point? What was that like for you?
I was always studious. I was always a good student. Always had great grades when I was younger. So I had a real strong educational inclination or educational foundation.
Sure.
Not until all these things happened with my mother and everything changed that I would not really rebel, but I became wayward.
Right.
Engaging in basic criminal activity, stealing bikes, running through the neighborhood and doing things like that, but nothing really crazy. But I was definitely wayward, and I eventually only got an 8th grade formal education, and I never graduated or never graduated high school, and never went beyond 8th grade in high school. But I was always fairly intelligent.
Yeah, because you've been one of the things that we bonded over was we've read similar books. We love studying similar things.
Right.
And when did that self-directed learning come into the picture for you? Was it when you started, I call it unlicensed pharmaceutical sales, but when you started selling and things like that, was it learning on the table then? Did you teach yourself that, or how'd that work?
Well, a few things took place. Really, it was like I went to the streets around probably like 12, 13, started dealing in the streets and I just pay attention. I'm a real good study, but I like to observe things before I really like practice them or execute on them myself. And I like to learn. I'm a lover of knowledge, and that comes from me, being a Gemini and all that. So I really love learning. So I would just pick up how brothers did it in the street, watching what they did, and then just word of mouth, and just really executing it, just learning by trial and error.
Yeah.
And then I would apply my intelligence in different ways to get different results, to meet a specific objective. And
that type of classical approaches, it seems like in our modern day schools, and a lot of people forget that it's okay to learn through doing, like learn through experience. That's how it's always been done.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's been lost, or are people in Silicon Valley just now starting to embrace that?
No, I think it's I think Silicon Valley, I think anywhere. People from the background I come from is not embraced, right?
Right.
The conscious level in the hood or the projects is real low. You know what I'm saying? And then you have this music that's not really building on anything.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of different influences of why people from my demographic aren't really high level with consciousness, or high level with education. But yeah, I mean, I just think, being self-taught and taking that route, I think entrepreneurship has that embedded in it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you think about it. So not just Silicon Valley, but anywhere you find entrepreneurship, I look at that as people going out there, learning on their own, or learning from trial and error, learning from mentors, and just, and that's a form of being self-taught, really.
Sure.
Because you have to reach out to people and see if they're going to even take the time to build with you and, and put you on to certain things.
Right.
And
so at this point in time, you are starting to do things in the streets, and you're around 13. You're in your teen years. What's going on? What are you thinking about? And yeah, what's your life like?
Oh man, it was turmoil, man. It was dysfunctional. My mother at this time was basically a full-blown addict. You know what I'm saying? Addicted to drugs, crack cocaine, and I lost her motherhood. And I'd never experienced that before because my mom's always been there for me. And I love her to life, man. You know what I'm saying? Make no mistake about it. But when I speak real about, my experiences and her struggles and her challenges, I speak from the heart. I speak real.
Right.
I'm not speaking in a way, I'm trying to belittle her or undermine her because she loved me, man. She did everything she could to make sure I was right. Mm. And for the most part, she succeeded. You know what I mean? She dealt with this issue with the drugs. But my life at that time was like, no food in the house, no clothing. The rent was, was either late sometimes or not paid at all.
Right.
So, that was a problem at times, the rent not being paid.
And it's not like school or any authority figures are saying like, hey, if you want to make money, here's how you do it. Here's how it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
None of that information.
Exactly. I just had to go into the streets and do my thing. So me and my younger brother started, doing our thing in the streets. And, my whole goal at the time, to be honest with you, was really to save my mom. Like my whole thing, she's my superhero, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Straight up and down. She's my superhero, man. And I wanted to free her from, not only from the addiction of the drugs, but from that whole negative environment.
Yeah.
Because I realized at an early age, this isn't a good environment.
Sure.
Because I had experienced a better environment in my youth.
And one of the things I love about your story that I want everyone that's listening and watching to know is that, I guess, I don't want to speak for you, but from the beginning, basically, and when you were in your late teens, you're thinking about how to open up a store or how to get into other businesses almost as soon as you begin. So on top of this, you're basically figuring out how to save your mom, help her out, get her the help she needs, and trying to figure out how to make any money in general to feed yourself, take care. Did you have a family at this point, or?
Yeah. I had 16. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about? Because you're planning for the long term. You're trying to get in a place where you're doing the legitimate business thing almost as soon as you start.
Yeah.
What's that thought process like, and what are you doing?
Yeah, I think I get my business intelligence from my father. You know what I'm saying? He's really good with numbers, and that's the way that I would always figure things out, was through mathematics.
Yeah. I
would always just, times 2 or times 3, knew I had to save this amount, had to match, the drugs
right.
I was procuring. I had to match that. Next time I went back and read up or, or purchase again, right? Did a repurchase or reorder, whatever. I would always double that up, make sure I put money away. So I always had like a mathematical system of how I did it. And no one really understood how I was elevating so fast.
Yeah.
Because my thing was I wanted to get out the hood as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I wanted to free my mom from her drug addiction as soon as possible. I didn't have time to wait, and I didn't have no games to play. So my whole focus was always like in the streets, figuring out how do I get to that next level. So that's what it was about for me. And from there, like I just always thinking entrepreneurial. And I had my long-term goal was like, saving my money, stacking my money, opening a sneaker store. That was one of my visions, open up a sneaker store, taking my son and his mother out the hood, and then living a better life. Like going somewhere else, living a better life, running a sneaker store. And then I actually had, before I got caught up in my first big sentence with the federal government, I actually had enrolled in school for audio engineering,
sure.
Video and audio engineering. You know what I mean? So I wanted to pursue music.
And what happened before you could start school? Or because I think at this point you were in juvenile hall once or twice.
Yeah, well, prior to that point, I was juvenile.
And so what happened? When did the feds come into the picture, and when did you get incarcerated for the first time?
Yeah, so I had I was hustling for a while, and I had sold to a confidential informant when I was like 17, but the charge didn't come forth until I was 18. So I retained an attorney, and I spoke to the attorney about what my options were. I'm like, well, I committed this crime when I was a juvenile. You know what I'm saying? Why can't I just go to a juvenile facility or whatever and handle it there? I didn't realize that had I taken it as an adult, I would have got bail. I would have been back on the streets immediately. Versus as a juvenile, they could have held me till I was 21. And I was, you know, since I was 18 at the time, so they could help me what they call FOC, further order of court. And I could have been held for 3 years. So I kind of played myself in that whole situation, because at the end of the day, my drug charge was still used against me in federal court. That same drug charge, you know what I'm saying, to raise my points.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to give me more time.
And this is a really important point. This is a story I haven't shared. I don't want to get into it too much, but basically, you can be questioned or approached or targeted as a subject for federal investigation for doing almost anything. Like, you don't have to be out there doing something that's illegal in order to be targeted and investigated. This is like something that's happened. I speak from experience of someone who's been targeted. It is not a pleasant experience. It's a situation where people are being very, very aggressive, very threatening to you, and you generally have no recourse. If you don't have a good knowledge of the law and a lot of the information, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket just to defend yourself from an allegation, not even a charge. So this is really heavy stuff. How old are you at this point, and what's your thought process like?
Yeah, so in the juvenile facility, I ended up spending I had basically spending 9 months. 9 months I'm back in the streets. I get back into the drug game, and this is where I started getting heavy. I've been traveling back and forth to New York since I was about 16, a little younger than that, 15, 16. And actually before that, I was probably like 10, 11 in that area.
Sure.
Traveling to New York City. My first time going to New York. And I was always moved by the culture of New York. I always identified with it, always connected with it through hip hop. But anyway, what ended up happening, to fast forward that, when I got out the juvenile facility, I'm back and forth to New York, doing my thing at the next level, and eventually I connected with somebody who was actually brought up undercover to me.
Gotcha.
Brought a confidential informant. I connected with the confidential informant directly, and the confidential informant brought us to the undercover agent. And at first, it was initially was a state thing, was a local arrest, and it ended up turning into a federal arrest. You know, they put in a federal complaint against me because of the level I was moving at. I was the biggest drug dealer at that time in the area at that age, and they basically made a federal complaint. They came down, and then one day I'm sitting in state prison, and I get a visit, and I'm thinking like it's an attorney or something, right? Because I had paid this attorney, actually it's mob attorney one of the biggest mob attorneys out there in Rhode Island at the time. I paid him. So I thought I was getting a visit from him. I go down there, and it's a probation officer basically telling me, your case has been picked up by the feds. And at that time, no one really had been even charged on a federal level for the crack cocaine law. I was one of the first. Right. You know what I'm saying? I was the first from Newport, Rhode Island, one of the first in Rhode Island. So I was like oblivious to like feds. I didn't even understand what it was. Right. And I knew nothing about the crack law, how it worked. I knew nothing about the federal system, how that worked on a point system, and how it can scale your time up.
So a lot of the justice system at this point has to be terrified about the epidemic because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what it's going to turn into. Did you catch that feeling that people in the justice system were panicking because they were so afraid that crack was going to become just like this epidemic that took over everything? Or would you think that other people's mindset was like during this time period? I mean, to be truthfully honest, man, the CIA is who brought crack cocaine into the hood. So the government was very well aware of, crack, and that's why the crack law was created. Those laws were originally created. Those harsh penalties were originally created for pharmaceutical companies. It's crazy how you mentioned pharmaceuticals, earlier. Unlicensed pharmaceuticals. Right,
unlicensed pharmaceuticals, right. Because those laws were actually used to be against those companies that broke the laws on controlled substances.
Gotcha.
Right?
And for anybody that's listening to, just a quick side note. So if you're interested in more of what Divine's saying, this is basically all documented stuff. There's a Life and Times of Barry Diller, recent movie that came out with Tom Cruise where he plays Barry Diller, who's essentially a CIA backed drug dealer. So this is not a positive legacy, but it's something that we have to talk about honestly, because this is information that's in the public domain. If we're going to make things better, we got to confront this.
Absolutely.
Not be afraid to confront it. So.
Yeah. So a lot of that was already set in place. The laws were set in place. They knew. I mean, millionaires were made in the crack era. If you look at New York City, how many millionaires came out of New York City at that high level? You know, the way they was operating at the high skill and sophisticated businesses they were running, drug empires, in fact, making millions of dollars on the daily. But this was all a plan, right? It was all set in motion. So that being said, when he started leveraging the crack law against, you know, as they say, low-level street dealers, that didn't even happen at my time. That didn't happen until like almost 10 years after I had served my time.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like at the head of the crack law being leveraged against, you know, before it was actually leveraged against low-level drug dealers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened with the charge, and when did you become incarcerated from that federal charge?
Yeah, so I eventually had to take a plea deal. 90% of the they say 90% of the cases in the feds are won because people take a plea. Right? They don't go to trial because it costs so much money to go to trial to get a lawyer. I ended up had to settle for a private lawyer that they gave me. They appointed that lawyer to me, but he's on the same team. So how can I really expect, you know, unbiased an unbiased defense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't expect that. So that being said, you know, I ended up having to plea out. When they initially came at me with 11 years because there was some guns involved. I'm like, 11 years. I'm thinking I'm doing like, I was looking at state time.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the state time, they offered me 30 years, 10 to serve. First offense, I'd have been out, you know, saying 3 years. First offense as an adult, I'd have been out in 3 years on parole. However, when the feds came in, it's a whole different game. You know, there's a point system, and they look back at all your charges. They go back 10 years, your criminal history, points rise. It shifts you over to a higher sentence. It was just crazy. So I was just getting used to all that. He talking about 11 years. I'm like, yo, I can't do no 11 years. You know what I'm saying? I can't do no 11 years.
And you have a son at this point, right?
Yeah. I had a son. Yeah, he's 3 years old when I ended up getting sentenced, man. So anyway, said it was 11 years, I'm going to try to get it down to 7. But they already had worked the deal out. See, in the feds, they already got the deals worked out. They already talked. They already know what they're going to give you. They just want to make sure that you're going to accept it. So he comes back to me. He's like, all right, I can get you 7 years. I can get the guns dropped because the guns weren't found in my possession. Even though they were my guns, they basically charged me and my co-defendant in the same way because he was actually much older than I was. And I could have positioned myself where I could have said, well, he's the manager. Right. And they give you more points for a managerial role in any type of conspiracy, right? You have the managerial role, and I'm like, he's like 10 years older than me. You know what I'm saying? I'm 19. This dude's like almost 30.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I could have played that, but that's not, you know, I don't get down like that. So I was like, you know, we're going to take him. We're going to do what we do.
We got to unpack that because I respect that a lot, where the situation, you're facing it head on and you're not afraid to tell the person who's involved, like, I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm not going to do that unfairly. What inspired you to do that? Had you seen any examples before of people taking the honorable path with that, or what was your thought process?
For me, it was simply just how I was personally. Yeah. It was just my style of being, right?
Gotcha.
And I think that if you don't have it in you, then you're gonna fold. Most people do fold. Even these so-called, you know, drug lords.
Yeah.
They fold. You know what I'm saying? Most people in the feds that are caught with high levels of time like that have told or cooperated in some form or some fashion. You know what I mean? But I was never like brought up like that. You know, I just do what I do.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of the crime. If I can hire an attorney and finesse the law in some way and slide, then that's all good. But as far as me telling on anybody or not taking the weight that's mine, I don't get down like that. So me and him ended up getting charged the same way.
Yeah.
Same sentence, everything. They dropped the guns on both of us because the guns were actually at his crib. Technically, they were my guns, Not all of them, but a lot of them were my guns.
Right.
And I actually had moved the guns. It's crazy because I had a feeling something was going down. I actually moved the guns from my crib and brought them to his crib because he's the one that had bought them for me. You know, he was former military. You know what I'm saying? So he had bought a lot of my guns. I had purchased them from him. But I had him hold the guns that night, and we ended up getting knocked off. And the guns were actually found with him.
So you get the charge. What does the sentence end up being? And what happened?
So the way the feds do it, they don't sentence you in years, they sentence you in months.
Gotcha. So
they gave me 84 months, which was 7 years.
So you go into the 7-year sentence, and I can't imagine, but what is it like?
I mean, in the early days, like when I went in, it was still like a lot of white collar criminals. You know what I'm saying? Bankers, lawyers, you know, people like that.
Who got caught with like cocaine or something like that.
Oh no, they was either mostly embezzling, right?
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Wall Street guys, stuff like that. So you had a lot of those in the prison system, the federal prison system. And at the time, the federal prison system wasn't as violent on the lower levels. But I actually was sent to where, you know, was sent to a medium where, you know, that's where like it's a little bit more violent than like the lows and the camps and all that. So I started out in the medium. And that's really like to kind of test you to see what your behavior is going to be like, to see if they got to deal with you another way, if they got to put you in a penitentiary, so forth and so on.
And I read that one of the judges that was doing this sentencing, or maybe another, mentioned that he wanted you to view this time as like a college education.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
How did that come across when you first heard it? Were you like taken aback, or were you like, wait a minute, that's a good idea?
I mean, I was taken aback initially when he told me, you know, consider it like going away to college. That's what he told me. I said, well, going away to college, I'm going to prison for 7 years. You know, I had never did that amount of time in my life. You know what I'm saying? The little time I did it in a juvenile facility probably was my worst time ever because it was the first time getting locked up. I did 9 months, but it kind of prepared me for the next stage of, you know, my criminal lifestyle or my criminal career, if you would. Because when I went to the feds, it was much easier to deal with, but it was really hard in the sense that, you know, I was moved away from home. I really couldn't get many visits, things like that. My son. So, you know, I just dealt with it, man. It was what it was. But later on in prison, I would take that to mind, what he said. And I started really turning my incarceration into college, man.
And how'd you do that? Because it's a situation where the opportunities, a lot of people in their head, they have this image that you're going to go into jail, you get these opportunities to work and make money and things like that. It's not really money. I mean, you're getting like cents per hour, I think, in a lot of situations. So can you explain to people what that's like and how hard it is to get started and how hard it is to make any money in prison?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to resort to innovative, you know, sometimes contraband ways of making things happen and make money in the system, especially if you got no support from the outside.
Yeah.
And early on, I had some support, but eventually all that support would die down. And I was there to fend for myself. Yeah. So what happened was I started out working, you know, working and getting 12 cents an hour. From
12 cents an hour. Let's stop and just think about that. For anybody that's complaining about like things are hard.
Yeah,
like,
I work for 12 cents an hour, man. Straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work for 12 cents an hour. Eventually, I was just doing like basically like landscaping on the prison grounds, 12 cents an hour, because you had to have a job. They made you work. You know what I'm saying? You had to work, so you had to get up 6 a.m. You had a job, report for your job, and do your job.
Is that a flaw of the private prison system, or where you have a system that has a lot of prisons being private? Like, is that a flaw of the system? Like, it sounds like it is.
I think that's a flaw of human nature. You know what I'm saying? To be greedy, man.
Gotcha.
And to, you know, and to look at, you know, capitalize, you know, in a capitalistic country, man.
Yeah.
To capitalize on everything you can.
So I feel like
other people's pain, you know?
Yeah, the goal should be rehab, you know, uplifting people, like healing people, because so many people are there because of challenges that they've faced before where they haven't had the right information, the right influences, the right role models. Like,
the prison industrial complex is wicked, man.
It's real. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's wicked. They profit off your pain, period. You know what I'm saying? That's not just black. We know a majority of individuals incarcerated are African American, but it's not just black. Everybody suffers in that condition.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that being said, you know, they're making money. It's like slave labor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but you know, there was a current nationwide prison strike.
Oh wow.
They were demanding, you more pay. They were demanding, rights, man.
Yeah.
Because they understand they're making these slave wages, and the prisons are benefiting from it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of private prisons, and a lot of private prisons that actually contract with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, which is the Department of Justice, right? So it's government sanctioned.
You talk about misaligned incentives.
Yeah,
that is
it's government sanctioned.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was a victim of that, right? 12 cents an hour. I would eventually work in the kitchen, get a little bit more money. Then I eventually got into the industries called Unicor, right? Which is the Bureau of Prisons industry, where we would make furnishings that would be sold to the private and the government sector.
And this is a step up, but it's still really tough because you're talking about like $120 a month. I think I read.
Yeah, I was making $100 a month. Yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah, I was making $100 a month. But I'll be honest with you, that $100 a month
was a game changer compared to
what
it was before.
I was able to sustain myself, and a lot of that money I would send home money.
Yeah.
For my son, actually, I would send home money every month of that little $100 I was making, and I would buy books. I would buy a lot of books. I would self-educate myself. You know what I'm saying?
So you don't have to go into it too much if you don't want to, but I'm really curious about, because I can't imagine what it would be like to be away from as a father. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be away. Could you kind of like walk people through what that was like for you, having to watch him grow up?
Yeah, man.
From the outside?
It's like when I had my son, he'll use everything. You know what I'm saying? I risk my life, I risk my freedom for my son, straight up and down, to make sure he had everything he needed, because I didn't want him to, suffer in the same ways I suffered. You know what I mean? So, I was out there hustling and grinding, but I always took care of my son. I always made sure I was with him, spent time with him, and did the right things by him. Even while I was incarcerated, I would always write him letters, knowing that years later he'd be able to open those letters, and see and hear my thoughts, read my mind and understand the things I was going through, and to kind of understand, But I'm grateful, man. I'm blessed that I was able to rebuild that relationship, despite me being gone for all that time. Rebuild that relationship with him, and it's something I'm still working on.
Yeah.
It's something that's actually ongoing, like the development of, his relationship, and I try to teach him the right things, and not to follow my footsteps and my path. Just do as I say, don't do as I do. But now that I was able to change my life, I'm more of a real role model for him to say, okay, my pops went through this, that, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I see the hell he went through, and I suffered at the hands of that. So now, how can I listen to what he's saying and kind of follow his footsteps and be like, I'm gonna do this, go this direction with my life. Now, I'm proud of my son, because that's where his mind's at, right?
Gotcha.
But it was hard as a father, being away from your child, trying to raise them if you could, from prison, through letters and through visits, through phone calls. It was an arduous task, but I think I succeeded in a lot of ways where I could have failed.
You're buying books at this point. You're talking to him. You're trying to keep yourself healthy. How did you get closer to the exit point? And when you finally did get closer to exiting and getting freedom again, how'd you prepare and how'd you make that transition? Man, so
I would save as much money as I could. The little money I was getting, anybody send me money, I would save it. So I think I probably had maybe $1,000 saved up by the time I was released. I know they did. They give you a plane ticket, give you a bus ticket. I was at the Atlanta camp. I remember they let me go, and I flew up to Boston. I was going back to Rhode Island. That's where my home confinement was at. So I was going back to Rhode Island, but they put me on that plane, and that was that. And I'll be honest with you, when I came home, I really wasn't prepared in a sense of rehabilitation. I knew what I wanted to do in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I wanted to do the right thing, walk that righteous path, and I've been taught that way, right? I went deep into spirituality, and I had to learn with that, with them ideals, and that philosophy of living a righteous life. Unfortunately, reality sets in when you don't have a skill, you don't have a trade, you don't have,
And everybody basically says, no, we're not going to hire you.
Right, all the doors are shut on you, right? It's a challenge, right? One of the main things someone needs when they're released from prison is a support network.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, they need a sustainable income. You know what I'm saying? And gainful employment. I didn't have none of that.
You're going out talking to people, but doors are slamming.
Yeah.
So I haven't experienced this, but what is somebody's reaction like when they ask you that question and you tell them? Is it like an immediate door slam type thing, or?
Nah, it's just. I mean, in some cases it is. Most cases you just have to fill out the application.
Right.
But that box is there.
Right. Yeah.
Have you been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
So
I used to hate just the psychological effect reading that question.
Yeah.
It used to bother me, man, because I knew that meant the door was being closed in my face. I already knew what it was. So most times I wouldn't even fill it out.
Completely.
And hope for the best.
Traditional opportunities are basically like almost impossible to come by. Like there's no traditional career path where it's like you can do this. That situation isn't there for you.
Right.
So what are you thinking about? How are you planning to make something happen when there are no opportunities?
Man, I'll be honest. I was working delivering sandwiches at D'Angelo's. That's I was able to get a car from someone I was real close to. They was able to give me a car, and I paid them down on the car, like $500 car. I used that to get a delivery job at D'Angelo's, man, straight up and down.
Yeah,
that's what I did, and that was like a ill bruise of my ego. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm used to making dough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, I can't afford this little $500 car.
Right.
I got to pay down the payments. I got to go deliver sandwiches, man. Delivering pizzas and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, was
it better than being
I'm wearing
inside?
I'm wearing the polyester,
yeah,
uniform and all that, man.
Was it still like there's a taste of freedom? You can see things on the horizon, or?
Yeah, I mean, nah, man. It was blight, man.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not feeling this. You know what I'm saying? But I had to do what I had to do to stay out and to satisfy probation. You know what I'm saying? But man, eventually I got back into the game. I got back in the drug game because I had no real trade, no real skill. You know what I'm saying? Where I could be on a path towards a career.
Right.
I just didn't have it.
And you get back in at this point. Was it a fast track back to incarceration, or?
Oh yeah, the first time I came home, I was only out like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I was right back in prison. You know what I'm saying? I tried to pursue music, which was one of my passions. Tried to pursue music, built a record label, doing all that, but I just couldn't get the funding I needed to really finance it the right way, and I just went back to the streets, man.
So music starts to enter your life at this point. You go back to prison, and as you're in prison and battling through that second sentence, are you still at a medium security facility? Is it similar to the first time? Or
nah, I ended up making my way down from the medium when I initially went in.
Yeah,
I basically became a model inmate. Period.
Yeah.
Cause I wanted to be out of there as fast as possible.
Right.
So I mastered that. I became a model inmate. That's how I wanted to do it. That was my way out. So I became like a model inmate, worked my way down from medium to the low to the camp and all that. When I went back, and whenever you go back, your points rise.
Gotcha.
And that's how they send it. They send it to you according to your point level. And so they have these points. They look at your crime, look at what you did. You know what I'm saying? You're a violator, and they put your points higher. So this time I went back to, I think I went back to a medium. I went back to a medium, and I had to, again, I had to work my way. Actually, I never even worked my way down. Oh, I did work my way down from a medium to a low, and I was in a low this time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I went right to a low. But for that time frame, I never had left it low. I was stuck there. No more camps, none of that.
So how you're getting closer to when this sentence is going to be over, you're saying, being a model inmate, doing everything that you can. Was this transition better? Were you better prepared for this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what things did you do that helped with that?
Just really took advantage of took more advantage of the programs they offered.
Right.
They had certain programs in place at this time that they didn't have.
And was the last mile in your life at this point?
The last mile that came later on.
Gotcha.
That's actually a state program in San Quentin,
okay.
And I was in the federal facility. But they had a drug program where you could get like a year off your sentence. But really, for the short time that I had, I went back for like 2.5 years. They sentenced me to, and you only have to do 85% of that. So if I had, by the time that I was accepted into the drug program, I think it was like a 900-hour drug program. You do 900 hours, and you get like a year off your sentence. By the time I was done, I would only be eligible for like 9 months off my sentence.
Gotcha.
But I would also be going to the halfway house, so I would get 6 months in the halfway house. So really, there was no play on me really getting any time off. It's more so I finished and I go to the halfway house, and that's what it is. But I still took the program anyway, because I really wanted to, and that gave me a basic general dive into psychology. You know what I'm saying? So formally, I was learning psychology and how my crimes the victims of my crimes and how all that played out, looking into my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It was real crazy, but I ended up doing it, and I got a definite 6 months halfway house because of it.
Do you think that learning about psychology, because I know I'm speaking from personal experience here, sorry about that, but from personal experience, I know that like investigating psychology has been one of the highest return on investments I ever do. Anytime I take the time out to do it, to try to understand myself a little bit better, I generally get confronted with stuff I'm doing that's stupid that I could be doing better.
Right.
Was that like same for you?
Yeah, psychology really digs in.
Yeah.
And really gets to the core, the core of your problems, or the root of your problems, man, and how you can navigate out of those problems, and make your life better. So definitely.
Cool. So you're doing music, you're starting to think more entrepreneurially now. Is this close to the time where you start reaching out to some people to ask for help, to ask for mentorship?
I mean, not because that second time I went in, I came back home, and I probably was only out like a year this time. I was back. So to fast forward to when that took place, it was like 6 years ago.
Gotcha.
I went in like 2011. I was released 2012. But while I was there, we fast forward to the story about Ben Horowitz.
Yeah.
And I learned about Ben Horowitz in prison, and I was intrigued by who he was and how he loved hip hop. And at that point, I was 100% dissatisfied with my life. I was like, yo, I can't live this lifestyle anymore.
Right.
I gotta change. I gotta make changes. And I was determined. I had a determined idea to enter entrepreneurship, like really enter it. The same way I studied music, the music business. The first time I was in, and took a path towards being a hip hop rap recording artist and also an executive in the music industry. This time I'm like, I need to become an entrepreneur and really learn this formally,
right?
And then leverage this to something. And then when I came across Ben, I was like, okay, there's a touch point. He loves hip hop. Perhaps he might be somebody that might invest in my music company when I come home.
Sure.
So that was kind of how I thought about it.
And one of the things I love about Ben's demeanor and everything about him is that if he says he likes something, if he says I'm a fan of this, he means it. And a lot of people say I like rap, but I think Ben, like, if he hears something that's wise in rap, he incorporates that like philosophy or information into his own life, into his business practices. When did it click for you that this isn't somebody that's just talking about it? This is somebody that appreciates that culture.
Oh man, the first thing was when I didn't reach out to Brent 2 years after I was released. First of all, though I read about him while incarcerated in 2014 when I saw him on a program on VH1. It was a documentary on the book by Steve Stout, Tenet of America. So when I saw Ben on TV, I was like, yo, he really is serious about hip hop.
Yeah.
'Cause if he wasn't, he wouldn't be on that documentary or involved with it. I didn't remember his face, but I remember the name. And I just happened to have the channel on, and I saw him. So that sparked me to reach out. That sparked me to do more research on him. Then I found out he had a book he just released, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and I was interested in that. And I came across he had his blog. And then when I went to his blog, he had the latest blog post was called Legend of the Blind MC. So when I saw that, I thought that was an odd title. I'm thinking some Wu-Tang sounds going on, right? So Legend of the Blind MC. So that title really intrigued me to like, let me read this.
Yeah.
So I read that and I learned why he loved hip hop so much. When I learned that, because I thought it was a publicity stunt of sorts.
Yep.
When I first read it, 2 years prior. But this, when I read that, I was like, yo, this is real. Like, he really loves hip hop. This is like authentic.
Yeah.
And I seen it was genuine. And that made me get more excited because I'm like, yo, okay, he really loves hip hop, like for real. So I read a couple more of his blogs and I kind of identify with his spirit. He's a Gemini too, actually.
Yeah.
He's a June Gemini, but I identify with his spirit and the way he was writing and how he was donating all the proceeds of his book were going to a charity for women and the struggle and all that. So I really identify with who he was in his spirit. And I was like, yo, I was just compelled to reach out to him. It's like, yo, I got to reach out to this man.
So you reached out?
I reached out.
Did you agonize over the email? How long did that take?
Nah, it wasn't even email. I did it publicly, right on Twitter.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
I went right at him. Like, yo, I got a link with my dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you think a lot about the tweet or did you just drafted it and fired off?
I mean, I just hit him like, yo, I read Legend of the Blind MC.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed, why he loved hip hop, because
Right.
that really also that was a burning question in my mind. Like, why does he love hip hop?
Yeah.
Like, why does he love hip hop? You know what I'm saying? Older white gentleman, Jewish, billionaire, Silicon Valley venture capitalist.
Yeah. He doesn't have to.
And checking off those things in that list, what really identifies with
Sure.
hip hop? None of them. Hip hop's from the struggle. Hip hop's from poverty, right? So there was no connection.
Right.
I didn't see one. But when I read his story of why he loved hip hop, it was like a deep emotional connection this man had, and not only just the hip hop, but African American culture, Black culture. Like, he got it. You know what I'm saying? He got it, and it wasn't because his wife was Black or African American.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But he's been involved in interacting with that
But that's
community.
that's my
and
point.
Had those friends for a long
His
time.
father was involved. His father was involved with the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
Early in his childhood, he was raised in Berkeley. The Black Panthers, Oakland, that whole thing. He was raised around Black people, like that whole thing.
Sure.
He identified with it. He connected to it on a real level. You know what I'm saying? Later on in his life, his wife comes along. She's African American, right? Makes sense. And then and it's just even. I think that even more that shows, who he is.
Yeah.
And Ben's never been ashamed or shy of being who he is and being real with who he is. And that's why I admire and respect about him a lot. You know what I'm saying?
And because you took that initial cold contact and you built a very real relationship. So for everybody that's listening, I would love to hear you, if you're willing to share a little bit about it. How did you build that relationship with Ben, and how did you take it from cold contact to a place where you're good friends with the Horowitzes?
Yeah.
Because this is an invaluable skill for anybody. You have to learn how to be valuable, how to be friendly, how to be like a value add to every situation, and that's you to like a T.
Right. And I think that I've always had a gift with building with people and connecting with people, no matter their walk of life. Like I'm saying, a lot of white people have always loved me all my life. It's just to say that it's not. I don't only connect with people from my background and my demographic,
sure,
or people that are just African American or Black or whatever you want to say. I've always had a lot of white people in my life, you know what I'm saying, that have believed in me and have assisted me. I've been friends with. So there's never been a bias for me in that regard. I build on someone's character.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I may not like what certain things are going on, and I may speak out against certain things from an African American perspective. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, it's about the human family.
Right.
So that being said, that cold contact with Ben was more like a touch point contact.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna necessarily say it was cold. I say it was lukewarm, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Because it was
warmed it up by doing the
point.
research.
Well, there was a touch point, right? The touch point was hip hop first and foremost. Rakim is my man. That was one of Ben's favorite artists at the time. So Ben knew I was connected to him. So that there was a touch point there with hip hop and the Rakim connection. And just me reaching out to him, I think just being real, like, this is what it is. And when I actually got the chance to really build with him, I was more so like, initially I was going to ask you to invest in my record company. But now that I really have this opportunity, well, you mentor me, because as the old adage goes, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's how I presented it. I really wanted to learn. I really wanted Ben to mentor me and teach me what he knew and what he's gained over life to make him a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never looked at Ben as somebody, how Silicon Valley looks at him. Because I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time.
Right.
I wasn't somebody looking at him as like an opportunity to have raise money for my company.
Which is such a good lesson, because for people that get hit up all day for money, the last thing they want to hear about is, can I get more money? You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's like a pro tip right there.
Yeah. So I'd say I've always been good at building rich relationships.
Yeah.
At high levels. From Rakim to Tragic Gaddafi. I'll just mention him real quick. He's someone else that I link with. It's always been people at the highest level that I've always been able to connect with, even in the drug game. Like, I dealt with the dudes that was bringing it over.
Right. Like,
I was getting kilograms of cocaine. I wasn't dealing with the street level dealers and none of that. I always had the high level plugs.
Do you feel like people who are at the top of any hierarchy are different? And I mean, obviously they're going to be different in some regards, but like, how are they different? And how, when you interact with them or think about approaching them, do you have any tips for people who are looking to network or interact with people like that? about how they can succeed?
I mean, definitely study your subject, right? If there's someone you want to connect with, even if it's a level of even mentorship, right? If you no one understand them,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? Do your research. You know what I'm saying? Understand who they are and find touch points. My touch points with Ben was of course hip hop. The next touch point was that he was philanthropic. You know what I'm saying? And I felt that if I could tell him my story and he can identify in some ways with me, that I know that if he said yes to helping me or assisting me, it would change my life forever. I knew that, period. And that being said, I was determined to connect with him. And sometimes when you look to connect with people for one thing, you never know there's so much more beyond what you can even think or fathom at the moment.
Sure.
That's gonna manifest from that.
Right.
Because I'm connecting with him on music initially, but I immediately pivot and say, nah, mentor me. Because knowledge is worth more than me than money.
And what was his reaction when you first brought it up?
I mean, I think he was open to me and just in general initially. Right. And it's very hard for someone like Ben just to mentor somebody that you know that's not even in the industry, that's not in the space.
Time is a premium.
You know what I'm saying? Former drug dealer, you know what I'm saying, ex-convict, all them things. But he believed in me. He gave me opportunity nevertheless. And I took advantage of that opportunity. I made sure I leveraged every aspect of the opportunity, right? Through him giving me social equity, network equity, and him just giving me a chance, man. Because he could have turned a blind eye to me, right?
Yeah.
This is 4.5 years later. He could have been, you know what I'm saying, pushed me out.
But he didn't.
But he didn't, right?
In many ways, like
right. So
brought you in and like listened to what you had to say. And so what happened in those like 4.5 years? And because you've done a lot since then, and you're doing a lot right now.
Yeah,
so.
Man. Just been learning the game. I've been learning this industry, learning the space, learning entrepreneurship, learning startup building. And I'm glad Ben didn't hold my hand throughout any of that.
Yeah.
He didn't hold my hand, and he didn't like tell me what to do or say do this or say do that. And I really ever asked some questions and how to do it, because I'm somebody I like to learn. I like to get in there and just do my thing, and you know what I'm saying, see how it is, and you know learn the hard way, right? Go the hard route. And Ben's not there to hold my hand anyway. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want that. So I've been real appreciative of Ben in the sense that he's let me figure this out.
Yeah. And he knows what things to back off on.
Yeah. Ben knows what time. I mean, Ben's a genius in his own right, and I consider him a hero of mine, a personal hero. You know what I mean? Because he believed in me and gave me opportunity. But outside of Ben, I have to mention his wife Felicia Horowitz, man.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I can't say Ben Horowitz without saying Felicia Horowitz. You know what I mean? Because she's behind the scenes. She pulls a lot of strings and make things happen, man. And I'm really, really appreciative of her.
Behind every great man.
Yeah, right. Man. Behind every great man, right? Is a great woman, man. So I call her the queen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I call her the queen. Because she was really the one that really, after Ben introduced me to her, or introduced her to me rather, when I did the Kickstarter and I connected with him and shared that with him, then I made the song about him called Veggie Capitals, like Ben Horowitz. Felicia was like just really excited about that. And she really like became, like Ben said, one of your number one supporters. Yeah. Right? And then she came to I had the Kickstarter at the time. Ben had put money on my Kickstarter initially, gave me his email address so I could reach out to him, any questions I had. And then Felicia came behind that, and she actually became my largest pledger on Kickstarter for my debut album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you put your debut album on Kickstarter, you get it going, and what was the release like? What was creating it like? And
yeah, so we got the album done, released it. I had never actually released a studio album. A lot of learning experiences behind that. But we dropped it, and it was what it was. It was old material that I had recorded, so it wasn't like it was fresh material. So it did its thing, and I moved on beyond that, and really was focusing on how do I take this opportunity and create something out of it beyond me just being a rapper.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, it's cool, I'm a rapper, but Ben's connected to Nas, he's connected to Kanye West. He don't need to be, connected to me to be rapping.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out in my own mind, like, how do I add value beyond just rap?
And how do you branch out and start getting into other industries?
I mean, Ben loved the song, Ben loved the video of the song. Everybody loved it, but how do I grow beyond that?
Yeah.
I wanted to learn.
And you've done that really rapidly. So now you're, I think you're one of the first artists that is an independent artist that's also part of United Masters, which is Steve Stout's new company.
Yeah, the Steve Stout's new company.
So yeah, could you talk maybe a little about that and some of the other projects that you're working on? Because these are, for everybody that's listening, these are like essentially like uncharted waters. What Steve's doing is a brand new thing in the music industry. So
yeah. And so much I'm a part of it in the sense of people become part of the company. Any independent recording artist can use a platform.
Gotcha.
When I first heard about the platform, when it was first released and the news came out about the platform, I thought it was ingenious. I had always thought about, independence and how do you, take independent artists' talent and leverage it in a way where they can control their craft, control their art, right, and make the money off it versus going to a record label and basically getting raped. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, and I like what Steve was doing with that. So I was like, I'm gonna start releasing music on this platform. So I'm back in the studio recording, and I'm looking to release stuff in the near future on that platform. And of course, it's Ben's chairman of the board on United Masters. Andreessen Horowitz, his company, invested in United Masters. So it just makes sense to support the platform and align with the platform.
And outside of that, you're helping companies like Udacity. You're doing a bunch of different things. What else are you up to?
Yeah.
So got the movie, dude. And by the way, congratulations. I gotta just interrupt myself and just bring that up, but that's a major deal. So you're gonna be in a new series that's directed by Ben Stiller.
Oh yeah.
That is So
Showtime series.
Lump that in there. Yeah.
So we look at Udacity. I interviewed and I got an internship there. So I'm doing that now, and I'm involved with Udacity. Udacity is a company that I leverage to basically learn a career-ready skill.
Yeah.
I took the digital marketing nano degree program, and that actually Ben and Felicia actually provided me a scholarship to do that. So the course was $1,000. Took it, and there's no other way I could see leveraging $1,000 into $50,000 entry level.
Completely. Yeah.
On a career path.
Right.
There's no other way to do that, especially for someone from my background, unless you're selling drugs.
Yeah, and
unless it's illegal.
And you
just can't do it.
You can't go to college and get the type of training that Udacity wants, or that any of the employers that Udacity works with wants.
Right.
So that's a great.
So I made a decision that I wanted to come out to Silicon Valley. I wanted to be out here. I talked to Ben about it. I talked to Felicia about it. They were very supportive of it, but they weren't going to force my hand or force me to do anything. It was more about what I needed to decide to do for myself.
Right.
And what I decided was that Udacity was a way in, right? Taking a digital marketing nano degree program was a way for me to get them career ready skills, and then leverage that into a corporate situation out here. Mm. Beyond that, I ended up getting the scholarship, then going to Udacity doing the course, and now I have an internship there. And in the internship, I'm basically creating and building an initiative around the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated, right? To prepare them with content and deliver content to them that speaks to them in a way that they can leverage Udacity for success.
That's so important. That's so important because like the type of jobs that are available right now in the workforce, they're changing so rapidly that I think Udacity is one of the few companies that can actually keep up with that. And they know what's happening in terms of what jobs are open right now that need filled.
Right.
So that seems to be like a great step forward for people that are incarcerated looking to do something.
Yeah,
right?
Udacity's been a blessing for me, man. Just an opportunity coming from the outside. Now I'm on the inside, like learning how an ed tech startup is built.
Yeah.
Because similar things I was doing with Black FinTech, with Black Group and all that. Just the educational piece, like learning how that
building,
that works.
Leveraging, acquiring knowledge.
Building,
right?
leverage, acquiring knowledge. Yeah. So we had a strong ed tech piece within that, right? Where we teach financial literacy, teach entrepreneurship education and all that.
Sure.
As a platform and a foundation. So being able to go into an ed tech company that's as popular, not popular, but as successful as Udacity is, and that's just on the cutting edge of leveraging technology and education, it's been an amazing experience. Thus far I haven't been there long, but I've learned so much in just a short amount of time. Just how operations work, how teams work, about the student experience,
sure,
globally. So Udacity has definitely been a blessing, and I look forward to really working with them and pushing that initiative forward.
Cool.
regarding the Ben Stiller,
Yeah.
the Ben Stiller thing, yeah.
That's major.
Yeah, so I had an
major.
opportunity to get my acting on, you know. So with that happened, Ben Stiller hand selected me from a background to a principal role. So I got some lines in the series.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's on Showtime. It's called Escape at Dannemora. It's based on I think
True story.
Huh?
Based on a true story.
It's based on a true story, yeah, of the upstate prison escape from Clinton Correctional Facility, and yeah, it's based on a true story. So I actually had an opportunity to go into prison to shoot the scenes, go into prison. I was playing an inmate, not a far throw from my real life, but you know,
Yeah.
But I was hand selected by Ben Stiller for a principal role.
Dude, congrats.
Which is huge, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's huge, and all this is like such a major deal, and I'm so excited for you, man. This is game changing too, because you just got boots on ground in Silicon Valley. What, like 3 months ago, or when did you come out?
I came out March 1st.
Yeah, so you're just getting started now, being present and being in Silicon Valley, and already you're making all this stuff happen. So it's just really, really exciting.
Yeah, it's an exciting time right now.
Big time. And we like to end every interview and hang out with kind of like a lightning round of questions about the best media, music, books, things that you're digesting. So if you're ready, let's jump into that.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So what's the best book or one of your top 3 that you think about from time to time, or maybe you revisit it occasionally?
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Wise. That's my guy.
Dude. Yeah.
Napoleon Hill. That book helped me a lot just in developing my mind and developing certain habits. You know what I'm saying? There's certain disciplines that I would recommend that book to anybody.
Cool. What's your favorite app on the home screen of your phone right now?
Oh, my favorite app. Interesting. Audible.
Okay. Yeah, same.
Yeah, Audible.
Yeah, that's one of my go-tos as well.
I actually got the Hard Thing About Hard Things is my favorite played.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's a solid book.
Got that on Audible. Yeah.
Very cool. And what about too? Are there any musicians or albums that you've got on repeat right now, or that you're going back to?
Nas's new album, Nasir. Listening to that. Pusha T, checking him out. Kanye produced joints.
Yeah, you taught me, if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Dude, that is a solid anthem for sure. But
for real.
I've been revisiting that a couple times.
Yeah.
And what if you have time to kick back? Are you watching anything on TV, any type of like series or movies, or do you watch TV at all?
I don't really watch TV too heavy.
Yeah.
You know, but once in a while, I take a break and check things out. I like comedies and stuff like that. But definitely check out the Luke Cage.
Cool.
The Luke Cage stuff.
You gonna make some time for the Showtime series
Oh yeah,
when it debuts?
Of course. You
Fair
know
enough.
that.
Fair enough. Divine, thank you so much for taking the time, man. It's always a pleasure to catch up, and respect what you do. This is awesome.
Thank you so
much. If there's
much.
anything that you want to leave listeners with, what would that be? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, man, just believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Persevere, especially in entrepreneurship. Persevere, focus, be diligent. You know what I'm saying? Keep the faith. Saying and really beyond following your passion, follow your contribution. Ben always says that. So
wise words.
Yeah.
Keep the faith. See you guys next time.
Peace.